Okay, I thought I would look at just a whole weather picture and see if we can develop where the hazards might be for aviation and just a general look at what's going on. So I thought I'd look starting up at the top. So looking at 250 millibars, I'm looking for the jet. And you can see here along the Pacific coast, there's a jet streak right in here. Winds well over 150 knots. There's another area, look at this right in here, 100, 115, and then there's another 125. So there's a couple jets right around in here as well, jet streaks. So this is a pretty powerful system right in here. Streaming into this part of the country, diving in, deepening this jet probably with time. So you would expect some kind of a low probably in here somewhere. And with that, probably would have a lot of turbulence, along this route of this jet. And look at the circular low, even at 250 millibars here. There's a closed off low there, and there's another one up in here. So you can see that there's a lot of turbulence possible. If you're flying across this part of the route, you would expect somewhere in here really a dramatic wind shift. With all that wind shifting and everything, I would think there'd be some turbulence with that. We'll look on down here a little bit. Let's go to 500. And there's that same cutoff system, a little bit south and west, but not really a far different, pretty close to the same spot. Stronger winds around the bottom. So if you're flying through here again, you're going to cross the jet. If you were going north-south in here. One of the things, too, you can see it's a very fast flow from the west coming off of the California coast, moving east. So let's just look at 850 with this. What I'm looking here at is look at all the moisture coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico. Tremendous moisture being lifted northward out of the Gulf of Mexico here. And say you were coming into Tallahassee, just off the surface, you have a southerly wind at 50 knots. And it's probably a pretty good wind right there. And it looks like the low center is probably way back here. So you might have a pretty good wind shift or wind shear down in this part of the country as well. As you can see, this really has developed into a major system right in this part of the world here. So let's look down at the surface with this. And what do you see? Well, what I'm seeing here is that big low wrapped up right here as well. But I'm looking at a couple other things here. There might be another secondary low, maybe forming to the east with time somewhere in here that might mess things up even more. Notice across the north, probably a lot of snow up in here. Temperatures in the 30s, so there's some snow up to the north here. And a couple warm fronts. Warm fronts aren't continuous always. They kind of get drawn in here. You can see this one right along the coast here is caused by the Atlantic Ocean. Really, that is what's setting this up. If you were to think about it, the wind coming in off the Gulf Stream here, warm air over the Gulf Stream, pushing inland, and that being pulled in towards the center of this low, which is back here. Pretty cold temperatures up here in Canada with that low as well. Very powerful cold front here. So again, I'm not saying where we're flying necessarily, but you can see there's all kind of fronts to deal with down here. Powerful low up here, which is going to have very strong winds on the west side of it, being wrapped in. Probably pretty good wind shears in here in the low levels. Really a good one. Think about it. Tallahassee had right off the surface 50 knots. And yet look here, nothing. Almost no wind flow. Only 5 knots or so on the south side of the front. So maybe not a wind direction shift, but definitely a wind max over top of here. So with all that, let's just take a look back here at the satellite a minute. And we'll go with this goes. Look at all the moisture coming up. We talked about all that moisture coming in here, and you can see the bands of thunderstorms forming. There's one right along that warm front that's down to the south, causing the lift. You can see the large area of clouds to the north, all the way up to New England. And say you were really wanting to look at maybe at infrared to see how high the tops are. Well, let's get a clear infrared image right here. So, there we go. Look at that. Powerful thunderstorms right along the Gulf Coast. And you can see them right along here. There's a couple good matches of thunderstorms. You can see this low wrapped up out here. We saw that at 500 and even up at the upper levels all the way up to 30-some thousand feet or more. And you can see this wrapping of the low right here. So you probably have some pretty significant snowfall still occurring to the west of it. And potential maybe for some good rainfall and all coming up right here with this. Look at the National Weather Service map just now at the surface, and sometimes I can pick out some things, the hazards. See, they're forecasting some light snow up in New England. Winter storm watches or warnings are out in this part of the world, backside of that low that was developing. Oh, there's even some convection down here along the Gulf Coast. We saw those big thunderstorms down there as well. So everything we've looked at, we're kind of matching up to what we're seeing at the surface here. And look at Doppler radar. There's your big thunderstorms moving up to the northeast. Here's that low precip, not all solid, but it's pretty wrapped up. Another big area of rain here coming up the coast. So how does this all impact aviation weather? Well, look at all these different convective segments, turbulence out here. Remember, we saw that big, strong jet streak. There's your turbulence areas out in here. We had some other ones over in here. So you can see they're all matching up to what we've been looking at here. And you can see the convective segment. Here you have some big tops. We saw those two areas out here just to the east of that initial front. There they are as well. Then you can see the turbulence. You can just see right in here where that really strong jet streak was. And there's some other turbulence over in this area of the world as well. So again, we're matching everything up to what we've just seen on the weather. Just looking at it quickly. Here's your icing. There's your below freezing line right in here, down to the surface, and you can see the icing here. You also get some of the thunderstorms and even some along the east coast as well. So just looking at some Tafts, I wanted to take a look at, we'll take a look at the Taft here for Dulles, for example. Notice it was on the warm side, so we're expecting conditions to actually deteriorate here. It's 400 broken. We're going down to 300 broken in 1 mile, 300 broken here. It's really 18 tomorrow. You'll see the wind shifts to the southwest here. It's like a warm front comes through and the conditions begin to improve. Gradually still to the southwest, and the conditions continue to improve. And that initial front may be actually getting into here at that time, and they're getting better and better, and that drier conditions are beginning to come in there. Let's take a look back at Minneapolis with the snow falling there. And you can see there's some light snow right now. But by morning, you can see the real strong wind gusts are setting out of the north-northwest, gusting to 27, 21 mile an hour there. And just a few clouds around, but the snow's over. So another one might be just looking at Cincinnati, which is close to that area out there. And you can see here, there's some wind shear. We were looking at that kind of conditions as well. And then conditions break up and get clearer tomorrow during the day. Low ceilings, visibility out ahead of all that. Remember, there was a front like this, and there was a front over in here. And remember, with east winds and all, you're backing up into the mountains. All these low clouds right here are caused basically from the rain coming up, but there's a ocean front offshore here, right along the coast. And with inland from that, you get lots of low clouds, low ceilings. So one of the other last things I wanted to just take a peek at, we'll look at Weather Prediction Center here. And instead of looking at this, what is happening now, let's go to the forecast and see how these things are moving. This is day 1. Day 2, notice how it forms a new low up in here in Pennsylvania. By day 3, that becomes the dominant low, and you can see the cold fronts push through. But if you go back to day 2, you can actually see we were looking at conditions got better by afternoon tomorrow. Well, it's kind of because of the warm front coming up. And then there's another weak cold front comes through and really pushes through by day 3, and everything gets better. Now that jet that's out here, we still have some turbulence and all with it as well. So you can see all of these things are playing together. Everything you've learned is right here. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. I hope you got something out of all this.